Welcome guys, it is the Axeman here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Last week, Funcom flew a bunch of his creators out to Norway to take part in a preview of their new game, Dune Awakening, a new multiplayer survival game based in the Dune universe. They took very good care of us and let us play and record a good 6 to 8 hours of gameplay. We were then given the footage to use how we want, so for this video, I'm going to treat it a little like a story and take you on a journey and show off the game and the shenanigans we got up to. Before we jump into it though, I do want to say a massive thank you to Funcom for this opportunity. They showed us around their office, they showed us how they create the game, we got to meet the team behind it all, they provided us with daily activities and dinners, and it was just amazing. So if you want to go and see some more of that stuff, make sure you follow in the Twitter and the Instagram. I posted a few pictures there. But yeah, just massive thank you to Funcom. You guys are awesome. Now let's jump into it. We started our adventure by creating our character. Now, the character creator system is pretty good. You've got your options for your hair and your eyes, etc. But you also have sliders to adjust placements and sizes. Now, I didn't play around with that too much as it doesn't interest me as much. But the woman who was sat next to me spent like a good hour creating their character. For me, though, 10 minutes is all I needed to create this masterpiece. After that, we were asked a few questions that would give our characters some backstory and also what class we were going to pick. Talking about classes real quick, you start with one class, but you can unlock all the skills further into the game, so then you can pretty much create your own class later down the line. I'm not going to show any cutscenes in this footage as I don't want to spoil anything, but a quick cutscene later and we end up in this cave. Now, this is kind of a tutorial cave. You just kind of learn about the movement, your inventory, and also hydration. Now, this is a big, important part. Like other survival games, you don't actually need food. You don't need to eat in this game. It's all about hydration. We learned that the plants are the very basic, and then later in the game, we learn how to get water easier and more efficiently. But we get through that, we exit the cave, and then we learn about harvesting. Again, another really cool way they've done this. Instead of just collecting sticks and rocks and, you know, tying that up together and making a stone axe, we actually make a thing called a cut ray, and you use this to cut through rocks and metals. And doing that, you can obviously gain stone, you can gain metals, but you can also use it to enter places that are blocked off, like this ship just here. Inside this ship, this is where we learn about combat. Dodging, parrying, and learning to take out shields were all on the menu here. With the tutorial now finished, it was time to head into the actual server with the rest of the content creators. We started with the usual, picking up everything you see, harvesting all the rocks, and crafting better armor. I then turned the corner and saw what I thought was an NPC bad guy. So I just started blasting away, and that's when Syntac, who was sat on the computer right next to me, started screaming that he was being shot at. It took us a hot second to figure out, but obviously that was me and him, and turns out we were like the first two players to find each other on the server. Now, we did find out there are guilds in the game, but you need to spend, I think it's 1,000 gold to create one of them. So for the time being, as we were all very poor and just starting out, we decided to just create a party together and just hang out. As we're exploring, I did stumble upon a real NPC enemy camp and started taking them out. I just have to say, the gunplay in this game feels so crisp. I don't know if it's the speed, the sound, or the feedback on the gun, but god damn, I just love it so much. I was blasting away when I thought this guy just here was an enemy boss or something, and turns out it was just another player, and for some reason everyone is just so quick just to start blasting each other. But it was now time for our first sand crossing. Now, the sandworms roam the lands and will attack anything that makes a sound, and this was our first experience. And it was like nothing I felt before. Literally, me and Syntac were both shouting and screaming like little girls as we tried to run across and make this into one piece. And that's when we saw the sandworm for the very first time. It was a little way away, but just seeing it in person and knowing that it's just hiding under the sand, it was such a crazy, cool experience to see. We did later find out from the devs that this little initial first part of the map, the sandworms aren't as aggressive. They give you kind of a chance to escape, like they'll pop out of the ground, you know, you've got a chance to run away. Later on in the game though, they get really fast and there's very little warning, so that just makes me even more excited to see some of these nastier, more aggressive sandworms, because god damn, they're so cool. Next up, it was time to build our bases. The building was actually pretty decent. It took me a hot minute to understand it, but once you do, it's all smooth sailing. I didn't go crazy with the building as I thought this was going to be just like a little temp base, Turns out we stay here for the whole time. So I just kind of created this long little box building, added a generator, and if I'm not mistaken, the generator stops your base decaying and protects it from raids and maybe sandworms. I forget if that's a thing. But anyways, I waited for Syntax to create his hideous base, and I have to say this is the first time I've seen Syntax make a very, very bad base. But once that was done, it was time to make the blood extractor. Now, if you've watched the movies, you will know what this does. Pretty much in Dune, all liquid can be turned into drinking water. And yes, that includes blood. So now we can kill the NPCs and then drain their blood and either drink it or purify that blood into drinking water. As I was busy with the enemy camp, Syntax actually found Xavi, who was actually sat next to us as well. He had also spawned pretty close, so he joined the party. And together, we decided to take on this big enemy camp that was right next to us on the side of the cliff. We scaled the cliff and got to work, and I have to say, I did maybe 90% of this camp solo, as the other two just struggled to grapple their way all the way up to the top. You could have just walked all the way around, but we wanted to look cool, and it turns out I'm the only cool one in this party. It was really neat, though, the gunfighting, and again, the gunplay, bro. I love it so much. We ended up looting the place and extracted all the blood from our enemies, and we did get a little blueprint for some armor, but we couldn't actually use it yet until we progressed further down into the story. So the game also offers you little like side quests, just kind of the basic ones where you just collect an amount of resources. And the first one we got was just to collect some stone and to deliver it to a location. So we decided just to kind of get that done real quick. It's a good thing we did though, because turns out where we were delivering it to was one of these like friendly town places. I'm not sure if that's the technical term that you call them, but right now I cannot think what they are actually called. But you're not allowed to carry weapons in there. You can't attack anyone, but you can buy and sell stuff and do like small quests. I like that this was a thing. It kind of gives the desert a bit more life. And I could see when a full server is using these kind of town hubs, I guess maybe we're going to call them. There's just going to be people coming and going. It's just going to bring even more life to a desert that, you know, not much is going on sometimes. After the little break in town, we decided to take on another enemy camp. This time, Syntax got himself killed, so it was down to me again to take care of his camp. And this one was actually really hard. There were dudes hiding everywhere, around every corner. They were just jumping us. And I hadn't got used to switching between ranged and melee attacks yet. We did get told it's going to be important to use a mixture of ranged, melee, and your abilities the further you progress in the game, because there's going to be a mixture of different types of enemies, some with shields, some that don't. But yeah, I was getting good with the gunplay, and I did single-handedly take out this whole base. Our next objective was actually a main story mission, and I don't want to spoil this, but pretty much me, Syntax, and Xavi, we headed over there together to get it done. And as we finished, Aaron, who was also hanging out with us, entered the cave as we were leaving. And again, people shooting first before even asking questions. I don't know, it makes me laugh every time. Anyways, we invited him to our party and we left him to go and do the big main mission himself. We all then returned back to our little bases and just kind of spent a little bit of time progressing the story and grinding, getting some more materials and stuff. The next big goal, however, was creating a Stillsuit. Again, if you know any Dune lore, then you'll know what this is. But for those that don't, it's the suit that can turn sweat and other bodily liquids into drinking water. So pretty much the more you move around, the more liquid it produces. This would be huge for us as we were always dehydrated. Now, this is mainly because on our server, it was always daytime. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't until later on one of the devs realized that we haven't actually seen nighttime yet. Apparently, they used the server for something else before us, and they needed it to be like daytime the whole time. So, yeah, we do get to see some nighttime later on, but for now, we're just struggling in the blazing hot desert. With the Stillsuits equipped, it was now time to do our very first survey of the area. Now, this is a main core part of the gameplay. You need to reach a high place and shoot a probe into the sky, and it will uncover the map, and you can see all the things that are going on. This is going to be very important later in the game. There's a thing called the Deep Desert, I think it's called, or something like that. This is a PvP zone, but it's essentially just a massive, vast desert with lots of OP resources, caves and stuff. I can't remember the exact size of it. They did tell us it is massive. But yeah, this changes every single week. So all the locations of dungeons, of resources will swap every single week. So what you need to do is you need to head into the deep desert and survey it every week. But if you don't like to do that, you can actually buy and sell maps. So I could go into the desert and survey maybe 80% of the desert and then sell that map to someone that maybe doesn't want to spend time doing the survey, just wants to get in there, find the dungeon, get some resources, and either use that, sell that, whatever they want to do. You can make some big profits. So I don't know, I really, really like this idea. I think I will do a lot of surveying, sell the maps, and then use that to like buy better guns and armor and stuff. But anyways, yeah, me and Syntac apparently are very bad at climbing, and it took us way too long to get to the top. But yeah, in the end, yeah, we did it. It looks easy, right? So next up, we needed to go and find a crashed fallen ship and get some resources from it. And as we were traveling around, we actually fell onto a cliffside. Now, the game has hundreds of cliffs. For some reason, the one cliff that we fell on also had a dude on there, Miola. No idea why he was here and how he got here. He didn't even notice us. We were shouting across the room we were in, and he just was so oblivious that we kind of, we were dancing around with him. We just left him alone in the end. I mean, classic Viola, right? But anyways, yeah, we made it to the ship, and these were more or less the same as an enemy camp, just more enclosed space. They did have this really neat feature that some of the doors you could actually cut open. We actually thought that we'd done with the ship, but then I found the door, and the thing I like about it, it's not like there was a big, huge marker pointing to this, telling us like, hey, you can open this. It was more like I had to just kind of walk into it and check to see if it was cuttable. Is that a word? I don't know. I just found it really immersive and just really freaking cool. So we got through that, and we did actually find some good loot from this place, including a rifle gun and also a better pistol. And as we were heading back, we had our first taste of the nighttime. This was where a new event could happen. I forget what they're called, but there's this ship that flies around the desert, and it's pretty much looking for prisoners. And if they spot you, they drop a bunch of guys down, and they will kick your butt. Not really something you want to mess with until later in the game, but we did kind of witness them dropping down full automatic like rifles, and they just peppered you, and it's not a good time. But yeah, anyways, we returned home and crafted some better things to prepare for our first taste of a dungeon. I won't go into too much detail on these because they are essentially just your standard dungeon, but they do look really cool. They have like the foliage and just different like assets in here that's a really nice change of scenery, and I don't know, it just looks kind of really, really cool. These are actually pretty long dungeons, and they are filled to the brim of enemies. And I did have to rescue Syntac as they completely overpowered him, and I had to rush through and just kind of take care of all of them. For some reason, a lot of the dudes in here were like half naked, but I don't know, maybe there's some lore to that. I don't know, I still thought it was kind of funny though. Oh, one thing I do want to mention though, as we left the dungeon, as we completed it, Miola entered, and because we'd actually killed all the enemies, he had a free run of the dungeon. Apparently this is a thing that you can do, it's made, it's intentional for this. So you could actually sneak into the dungeon when other people are doing it and get all the way to the end and get a share of the loot. Or you could just get really super lucky and find the dungeon literally as someone's just left. I know some people might not like that, but it's kind of just different ways to play the game, especially when there's like a lot of dungeons and the server's really populated. I think like if you just get lucky and don't have to waste any ammo, that could be a really cool thing. But anyways, the main reason that we were doing this dungeon was to get parts to make our very first vehicle. And this is where the fun really began. It did take us a hot minute to get all the stuff and things, but eventually we were able to build a sand bike. These things were awesome. We can now drive instead of walking, which means not being thirsty all the time and also being able to outspeed the sandworms. We decided we wanted to test these things out, so we drove over to Aaron, who was a little way away across the map. Just the way that these things handled and just looked and just sounded, it was so sick. And it's the first time I felt a big step up in terms of progression. But yeah, we made it to Aaron's base and waited at his front door to let us in. This is where we get a little silly. He opens the door and we both try and squeeze into his base, running him over in the process. Once he lets us in, he actually had to go and do a little interview with one of the devs, so his character was now AFK. And this is where we find out that if you back up into a character, they kind of like stick to the bike. Now, I'm not sure if this is something the devs want to fix, but at the time we decided just to make use of it. Whilst he was AFK, I kidnapped his character and drove him out into the desert. I wanted him to return to his PC like all confused on why he was out in the middle of the desert. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually get his character to like get off the bike. He was like stuck there. And before we knew it, he'd actually returned. He did find it really, really funny though. So, you know, this is all in good faith. And also, I do want to just say the devs also kind of thought this was funny, that we were just like kidnapping people and driving them around. So no one's like getting in trouble for this right now. As we were playing around with the bikes, we did actually work out how to get him onto the passenger seat as well. So he did manage to actually sit on the bike as I took him back home. I decided I wanted to have a little fun with my bike, so I went back to my base and created a giant ramp. I wanted to see how much air we could get with our new bikes. As I was doing that and having some fun, I heard Syntax screaming and shouting. He drove out of the map and fallen into quicksand and lost everything. So once again, it was my time to save him and help him out. He got onto my bike and we journeyed into Sandworm territory looking for his lost stuff. We did manage to find it without being eaten by a sandworm. So I returned home and pressed on with making things to move to the new part of the map. So at this point, we didn't have much time left as we had spent a lot of time just messing around on the bikes and stuff. But I decided I wanted to venture up north just to see if I can uncover the new part of the map. I wanted to survey the area and just kind of get a vision of how big this next part was going to be. I tried my very hardest to climb all of these giant ass rocks. Every one I got to the top of wasn't tall enough. And I'm going to say, I think I spent maybe 30 to 40 minutes to actually get one that worked. But we got it done and, you know, it uncovered all the map for us. Legit, just as I did that, one of the devs was coming around to everyone and spawning in the, I can never pronounce it, the Ornithopter, the Copter thing with like the flappy wings. But he asked if we wanted to play around one of these, and I was like, yes, of course I want to. If you've seen these in the movies, like, you will see how sick they are. Like, they're so freaking cool, man. I'm just so... Like, I was just so excited to play with them. So, yeah, we got one spawned in and we hopped into it. And I just have to say, like, the movement on these, it was so easy to get the hang of. It just works so seamlessly. Switching between just kind of the standard fly mode, then going into the dive bomb mode. I figured out that we could do barrel rolls. We could do, like, front flips, back flips. You could drive it kind of upside down as well. Just a really... good solid experience with it. Like, had a lot of fun with this. But then of course me and the boys had to try all the dumb shit. So we were trying to like fly them into each other, we were trying to land them on top of each other, just kind of the general shit that we'd been up to. It was a lot of fun. I then didn't realize, but I used my copter so much that I actually ran out of gas, and I ended up falling to the bottom of this chasm. Like, I went all the way to like the bottom of the map. So now it was time for Syntax to save me. It took him a while, but he did find me, and instead, because this is how we've been the whole time, instead of me sitting inside and riding it, I decided to stand on top of it, and he was going to fly me out that way. And this was really cool until he decided to do a spin, and then I plummeted all the way to the bottom of the map again. There we have it. That was our little adventure on Dune Awakening. There is so much more that we have to discover and uncover, and I just cannot wait to play some more of this. The endgame stuff sounds really sick. Really looking forward to experiencing that. But for now, I just want to, again, thank Funcom for flying us out to Norway, allowing us to play this game. It was an absolute blast. It was so amazing. But if you're interested in seeing some more of this game, don't forget to like and subscribe. I feel like when this comes out, I will be streaming this a lot. I might even get some of the boys to hang out with us when we do that. But again, yeah, thank you, Funcom, and thank you guys for hanging out today. I will catch you all in a bit. See you later.